Joining us is Florida Congressman Representative Michael Waltz. And listen, this is one of those circumstances where you just have to say this has been about as bad as I think most people could have imagined, in particular as far as the economy is concerned, because you're talking about the price of gasoline is way up, the cost to heat your home is way up, the cost for food is up. It just seems like this cascade of negative news for this administration, and I think that could play a huge role come the midterms. Congressman?
Well, I certainly agree with you. And just looking back over this last year, where you really saw the inflection point in Biden's poll numbers was the debacle in Afghanistan. I think that was just such a betrayal of basic American values. We never leave fellow Americans behind. We don't abandon our allies. We don't let floundering democracies just get run over by terrorists, and we don't let terrorists dictate the terms. So I think that completely undercut the "I'm more competent than Trump" and the adults are in the room argument. And then, as you said, piling onto that, the very basics of governing the economy and keeping people healthy with COVID and inflation is why you've seen these free fall in numbers.
Yeah, how much of the dip in numbers do you think is because Joe Biden campaigned on and promised to end the pandemic? Literally his words, not mine. But he has done the exact opposite of that, whether it's the disaster in messaging or the sheer fact of the matter that we have a record number of cases right now, seemingly every day.
Well, I think that's part of it. But I think, a big part of it has just been the flip-flop and kind of all over the place, confusing messaging that is coming out of the administration, and then just coupled with kind of a lack of common sense. And if you look at, I know I'm a little biased, but you look at Florida, for example, where we're, putting power and decisions in the hands of families, their physicians, their providers, and local government officials, because the pandemic is affecting certain areas different than the others. And people are voting with their feet, and they're moving here in droves because we're just taking a common sense, balanced approach. That's why our economy is on fire, and yet our per capita in terms of COVID is very reasonable given where the pandemic has been. Yet Washington D.C. Keeps managing under Biden to get in the way and get in the way and get in the way, and people have had it.
Congressman Michael Waltz joining us. As always, we appreciate the time. I'm so glad you mentioned the Afghanistan circumstance, an absolute debacle, unlike anything the American people have ever seen. It's just been incredible. An Afghan war veteran, Michael Berry, talking about that, just incredible with the Navy SEALs being forced out. I would love to get to that. Do we have time to share that with the folks at home? Let me share this with you, Congressman, before we wrap it up. Listen to this.
Why are they kicking out Navy SEALs who should be fighting for our freedoms and fighting to defend this nation instead of fighting for their jobs? It's trampling all over the constitutional rights of our service members.
All right, so you hear that, trampling on the rights of the servicemen. We have about 30 seconds to go. I just want to get you to weigh in on that.
It's a tough one. We can't have SEALs piling into submarines or people into nuclear missile silos. You do have to get all kinds of shots when you go into the military. But in this case, I think this vaccine is somewhat different. And as the judge said, their religious exemption process by the Defense Department has been theater. It has been a rubber stamp. They haven't approved a single one out of thousands. And in this case, this is 35 out of several thousand SEALs who are making legitimate claims. And making a legitimate claim for an exemption. And I'm glad that the judge is going to let their case be heard.